Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is barter. Let's take a moment to look at the definition of this verb. The main way the verb barter is used is to mean to exchange goods and or services for other goods and or services without using money. So this is a way to have a transaction. Again, that does not involve any type of cash. So you might have something you don't really want any longer, but someone else has something you want or need, and you're going to exchange those items. You should know that barter is a regular verb. To form the progressive tense here, all I need to do is add ing to the end of my verb to form bartering. The past tense and participle forms of this verb can be made by adding ed. Our base verb barter ends in a voiced R sound. This means that our past tense ending is just going to make a D sound, and we're not going to add an extra syllable as we say it. It should sound like this: bartered, bartered. Okay. Now, you will encounter two phrasal verbs with barter. The meanings aren't all that different, but I thought it would be good to have some other example sentences. So, the first phrasal verb you might hear is to barter something away. So, here you're trading something, some good, something, or some service in a bartering transaction. An example of this: by the time he won the speakership, he had bartered away most of the power of his position. So in this example sentence, I've borrowed it from a news story here in the United States from a few weeks ago, as our House of Representatives was trying to elect its leader. And what it's saying is the person who won the speakership had to sort of trade away the power in order to win it. So what is coming after our away here is what has been given by one party. The second phrasal verb you'll hear is to barter for. And again, this connects to the idea of a bartering transaction. So here we're swapping or trading some items or maybe some services with another person. An example of this might be they bartered some comic books for some vinyl records. Okay? So here, many times you're going to hear kind of the two things or two sets of goods, two sets of services, whatever it might be, that are being traded or exchanged. Now let's practice our verb of the day, barter, in a couple different verb tenses. Today we'll focus on the present perfect and the simple future, focusing on be going to. We'll start with the present perfect. We use this verb tense to talk about an action that happened at some unknown point in the past tense. We also use it to describe actions that started in the past but continue into the present. To make present perfect sentences, I need two parts to my verb. Okay? I'm going to pay attention to my subject, and if my subject is I, you, we, or they, I'm going to use have and then the participle form of my verb. Okay? But if my subject is he, she, or it, I'll use has and then the participle form. Now, because barter is a regular verb, my participle is the same as the past tense. So we're going to see both of those parts in my first example sentence here. The social media star has bartered her way from a bobby pin to an $80,000 house. This was a popular news story a while ago about someone who started trading things, and the value or the perceived value sort of increased to the point where this person had, without exchanging money, acquired an $80,000 house. Now, if you want to make a negative present perfect sentence, again, we're going to pay attention to our subject, and then we'll either use have not and the participle or has not and then the participle. Here's another example sentence. They haven't bartered with their neighbors since moving here. Okay, so here we we have a starting point of someone moving to a new location, and then kind of the absence of this action. This action has not occurred since that point in time. Finally, we can make a yes or no question in the present perfect. We will start with either have or has, whichever form matches our subject, and that subject comes next. Then you use the participle form of the verb. Here's another example. Have you bartered for any goods or services? This is a question some of my students were discussing today in class. So can they think of some situations where they maybe have traded goods or services to acquire other goods or services? Now let's talk about the simple future. There are many ways to describe actions that are going to happen in the future or that we think will happen in the future. Today, we're going to focus on making sentences with be going to. This is really common when people discuss their plans. Okay? And I do need to pay attention to my subject as I make sentences with be going to. So if my subject is I, the form of be I'm going to use next is am, and then I use going to and the base verb. If my subject is you, we, or they, I'll use are, A-R-E, going to and the base verb. And finally, if my subject is he, she, or it, I will use is going to and then the base verb. Okay? So just the form of be that changes, everything else is going to stay the same. Let's look at an affirmative example. We're going to barter various goods and services to try to save money. Okay, so someone might be sharing this as a bit of a plan, right? Some people find this to be an effective way, taking things they already have and maybe don't need in order to acquire things they do need. Okay. Now, if I want to make a negative simple future sentence, again, I'm paying attention to my subject. I'm using the form of be that matches that subject. Then I use not, then going to, and the base verb. Here's another example. I'm not going to barter lower prescription drug costs for inaction in the rest of the healthcare industry. I saw a sentence very close to this from a particular politician who was discussing his or her plans for sort of creating agreement about certain legislation. So here they're really talking about trading and exchanging. Lastly, if I want to make a simple future question using be going to, a yes or no question, I should say, I'm going to start with a form of be, whatever form matches my subject. That subject comes next, then going to and our base verb. Here's my last example. Is that country going to barter its natural resources for improved military technology? Okay. These last two examples, you really might think of this idea of trading. So one thing for another. Okay. Now, let's take a moment to look at some words that are related to our verb barter. And the first word we're going to look at is just the noun form of this word. So, exact same spelling, exact same pronunciation. When I use the noun barter, I could be referring to the action or the system of exchanging goods or services without using money. So, just kind of referring to that action, that transaction. So an example of this, they're using a combination of barter and cash to pay for the remodeling. Okay, so maybe somebody is having major upgrades made to a particular room of their house. They're not going to pay for all of it with cash, but they might trade other goods, other services to help sort of balance out that transaction. A second way the noun barter gets used is to mean goods or services that are used in a bartering transaction. So, an example of this. The textiles they shipped as barter were very average. So, textile, think cloth. Okay, so we might be talking about some things here that were just so-so, but they were a part of some type of trade. The last word that we're going to look at today is the noun barterer. And hopefully you're noticing that second ER, another suffix there. And many times when we see that suffix, you can think one who does and look back to the base verb. So here we're talking about someone who barters, someone who trades goods or services for other goods or services. An example of this. Her maternal grandfather was a big barterer and had acquired thousands of tools. Okay. I really appreciate everyone watching today. I hope you all have a great day.